Welcome. Today's webinar is on the communication and award-winning projects. These webinars are being uploaded for essential employees in the asphalt business. Today we're going to talk about how you can be successful with better communication on every project. Some of the awards you can apply for and receive are from the National Asphalt Pavement Association. The Sheldon G. Hayes Award is for greater than 50,000 tons of asphalt. That's somewhat like the Heisman Trophy of our asphalt awards. Ray Brown Airport Pavement Award for airfields, and the Larry H. Lemon Quality and Construction Awards, where 10 recipients will receive an award for excellent projects that are less than 50,000 tons. I'd ask that you visit the asphaltpavement.org website for the National Asphalt Pavement Association to learn more. Communication by Merriam-Webster is fairly straightforward. It's about the accurate, timely, appropriate, concise exchange of information between individuals. We can communicate with symbols, signs, our mannerisms, and our behaviors. Personal rapport is extremely important. Being able to get along with your peers, working in groups, to ensure we all understand each other's common goals and desires to build an excellent asphalt project. Contract administration is just one of the reference manuals that we use that guide our communication needs as well as requirements for the projects. Submitting construction forms timely and inspection forms timely in today's society quite often takes place electronically by iPads and uploading to the cloud and sharing information as quick and as soon as possible. We're trying to document excellent work, but we also are going to be documenting challenges that arise during the construction of the project. Sharing scheduling, changing the schedule is important to share in the pre-construction meeting, pre-paving meeting, and as the project progresses. A very important item for industry is timely payouts. Based on the size of the project, sometimes payouts are made weekly, bi-weekly, or at least once a month. Make sure as a contractor and as the agency, you communicate what's required by contract and what's desired to make sure that the progress of the project goes forward smoothly. If you're an agency member, remember contractors are not a bank. They count on you to make timely payouts for the work that has been done to date. Active listening is the ability to engage another individual while you keep your mouth shut. It's okay to pause. It's okay to wait, but please don't actively listen waiting for them to stop talking. What you have to say is important. What they have to say is equally as important. At the end, you need to be able to develop a list of action items of agreed to items. You can develop a list of not agreed to items, and you can also develop a list of follow-up items for clarity and whatnot. Document as best you can, but again, please make sure that you give full consideration to what the other individual is saying. It takes teamwork to get a job done. Listen, listen, listen. Always strive to listen as best you can, and do please remember that communication, excellent communication, is a two-way street. Sometimes not every meeting is going to be perfect. Sometimes every conversation won't be perfect. But at the end, remember that we're all in this together to get the job done safely, timely, within budget, and to the highest quality measures possible. Important items to remember on communication essentials is follow through. What's required when? Who's the distribution list? How shall it be distributed? Is it a massed email? Is it a sophisticated program within your organization? Is it texting? Is it iPads with photos and a audio follow-up of what you see on a project. Whatever it is, make sure that you communicate to all who are in need of it. That means communicating outward, upward, and certainly to the staff that works with you and for you on projects. The ramifications, if we're unclear with our communications, are measurable. So it's very, very important to stick to the form and script that everyone's comfortable with on a project. If you've elected to broadcast notes via email and in a certain outline and format, then stick to that form and process throughout the duration of the project. Make sure that if anyone has questions or needs clarification, that it is in fact put on a to-do list and follow through does occur. Always seek the best way to communicate clearly, and do be flexible. Make changes if deemed necessary. Many different methods of communication have existed for an awful long time. Hand signals has been around for decades. It is still the primary method of communicating at great distances among crew members, particularly between operators with large pieces of equipment and ground personnel. There is verbal communication on an ongoing basis. Writing, whether it's tabular or electronic, social media exists, and other mannerisms. You can know all about Instagram, or you may not even be on Instagram. You might be a Twitter fan, or never on Twitter, always on Facebook. Whatever the case is, make sure you're communicating properly, honestly, and accurately. Let your actions lead by example. Don't parrot others. If they do something wrong, that doesn't mean you have to ramp up your behavior to mimic theirs. Hand signals. Used daily, almost every construction project, probably hundreds of times a day. They're incredibly effective when used properly. That means to have the proper PPE on, to have the proper glove. Make sure that who you are communicating with has a clear line of sight to you at all times. Keep your head on a swivel. When communication signals are misunderstood, there can be problems. We might have the boom out too far for the load that's being carried. Do be safe. Verbal communication. Face-to-face is very popular for the greatest generation. Baby boomers are perfectly fine with phone and computer. They do enjoy phone calls. We can do FaceTime as well. Conference calls were brought on by Gen X and Gen Y. Webinars are definitely something that millennials prefer. And do you always think before you speak? Just kind of ask yourself that question each time whenever you're in any type of verbal communication situation. Written communication. Remember, we talked about handwritten notes. Do be cautious with texting, especially because of the autocorrect feature, which I think we've all been there on miscommunications. Emails, pretty typical today. A lot of white space, bullet points, easy to add comments in line in responses. They do all become permanent parts of contract documents. More formal letters are typically required when contract actions demand it. And memos, whether they're inter-office or between owner and contractors with regards to action items, timelines, deadlines, when's the next phase going to occur, and things like that. Make sure everything is done in as secure a manner as possible. Various items that you would communicate specific to asphalt and asphalt mix design. When will the review be done and completed? When can we begin as a contractor to schedule our acceptance test strip for the first batch of asphalt? Staging and paving plans are very, very successful when used properly to have a project that will go incredibly well. Paying attention to the details of the quality control requirements for installed mat density or joint density or the configuration on how to build them. All are key communication items to a successful project. Here's a good example of a phasing diagram that is submitted by the contractor prior to going out and building any part of the project. You should expect this on all of your projects, especially on very large commercial and industrial projects. Roadways are a little more rigid, where the agency details which lane will be done when and which order. Airfield projects are very complex, very complicated. A lot of details on exactly where the jointing plan needs to be between the top lift and lower lifts, as well as where the aircraft is going to be landing, and the wide shoulders, high-speed turnouts, and tarmac. Our mannerisms are key. An awful lot of people feed off of how you stand, how your eyes are, whether they're focused or glossing over them and looking out to something else. Facial expressions tell so many stories about people. So do pay attention to others, pay attention to yourself as well, and work on proper body language and facial expressions. Being dictatorial, probably not a good idea. Do as I say, not as I do. We are who we are. We do feed off of other people, though. But rest assured that middle managers and upper managers should lead by example, regardless of your position. I can never possibly state more emphatically that it's really good to lead by example. Don't demand respect. Learn how to command respect, and you'll be very successful in your career. So again, varying types of motivation. Positive motivational skills is a learned process. Dale Carnegie provides an awful lot of excellent tips on this matter. See the broken phone on the left. Obviously, that communication wasn't going very well. But do work on your varying types of motivation, and they will change based on the individual you're working with and the effort and energy that's needed to go in to make a part of the project successful. So spend time, again, working on your skill sets with regards to motivation. And I think it's fair to say we all can stand to improve. Your success, the success of your team, the success of the entire organization, the success of both parties, whether you're an agency or a contractor, consultant, overseeing, material supplier, everything stems from effective communication, breaking down barriers, and not having ambiguity on expectations of what should be accomplished at a certain time and location. I like this slide because it demonstrates how we're all intertwined in how to get a job done. So all the gears are tied together, and everybody has different jobs and expectations, but we do all work together in order to ensure the highest quality project possible. It starts with plans, specifications, certainly the engineering drawings that go into a project, contractors to bid to those contract documents. And then we have to roll out mixed designs. Quality control needs to know what their roles are, as well as quality assurance. And then we go produce it and install it. And then overarching is corporate or upper management for both parties to realize just how much effort goes into being successful and to invest in additional education to help their people to be successful. Again, just another reason we're here together today. Communicate consistently, communicate in a manner that encourages teamwork, and do it within all of the parts of the organization. For a contractor, that'd be the plant, the laydown, and trucking, how they're all tied together, ensuring that the support staff is in place for materials, material inspection, material suppliers, and good communication to the owner to let them know exactly when you're going to be installing the asphalt, how much, and how long you anticipate working that evening. Take into account the lags between the contract award and the approval of the materials. Take into account the lag in getting products from the quarries and the gravel pits. Sometimes specialized aggregates coming awful far away by barge or by rail that are needed to be used for the asphalt project. Communicate if there's any challenges with time of year in getting that material. And an agency needs to really pay attention to how much work they let at any given time, because that's just going to build in problems between contractors and between projects, and the agency will come to be potentially disappointed with material suppliers that can't keep up. But if there's too much work, it's very difficult to keep up. So a nice steady, significant amount of work, but a steady amount of work coming out of an agency is always going to provide for the greatest success for all of industry. Do continue to demo equipment, be innovative, try intelligent compaction, try infrared, try trucking programs that help to minimize your excess trucks or truck delays that should be anticipated better to reduce cost, improve the capability to bid a project successfully and make money, so that we can continue to build really high quality projects for our clients. Pay attention to the equipment available, manpower, time of year, and get those projects built so that we can get the money flowing, because again, a contractor is not a bank. We need to make sure that we have a uniform amount of money, flow of money in and out to be successful, even during these trying challenges of today. Who you communicate is a very important part of your job. I like to say that all of us communicate outward, upward, and to the people that work with and for us. And it goes across the entire corporate structure. Different people reading your communication read it differently. Upper management, they like high 30,000 foot information. They want you to be business-like. They like you to be brief, and they like you to be gone. HR and admin have a different need. Safety, you can never communicate enough on being safe. You can never communicate enough if you find something that's gone extremely well, and you must detail if something goes wrong to the safety department as well. Estimating needs to know how production rates go on a daily basis, because they bid jobs accordingly, and if you overachieve or underachieve, then they can modify how they bid a project in the future. Production has a fixed capacity, but the supply stream of the materials plays a big role in this. But most asphalt plants are rated for a capacity of X amount of tons per hour, and then they need to have enough storage capacity to be able to produce all that product and distribute it to the different crews that are building on any given day. Trucks and truck availability is challenging in the summer, especially in the northern tier states. Big demand for an awful lot of trucks, but unfortunately for a short period of time. So it does make it very complicated to get high quality trucks, truck drivers, and keep them there and busy for the entire construction season. This takes an awful lot of scheduling and effort on that part. So a good trucking manager is really worth their weight in gold. Construction is going to be tasked with building things quickly, safely, to the highest quality of possible. They're going to need to know, again, the staging, where we're going to start in the beginning of a day or a beginning of a shift, and where we're going to end. And then the quality control organization needs to know an accurate amount of tons being placed because a lot of sampling and testing is actually predicated on how much you place. For example, many state agencies require that you grab a sample of asphalt from the plant production on a frequency of probably between 4 and 500 tons. So on a 1,200 ton day, that could be either 2 or 3 full tests. For airfields, it might even be 4 full tests. And then the density technician who's monitoring throughout the day also has to coordinate with the core rig and the drill technician for extracting the cores before opening to traffic. So you can see with all of these different moving parts how important communication effectively plays a role in a successful job. Do stick to the facts. Talk about the project at hand. Talk about the most important thing today, and maybe you have a couple others. Discuss and document solutions, and move on. Okay, we really are a very active industry. A lot of progress. We have to keep moving forward though to be successful. So I like to say less is more in many cases, and I think you know who you are and what I'm talking about. Again, on communicating effectively, it really is driven by leadership, culture, and vision. Active listening, as discussed earlier, leadership must be able to listen and act appropriately, quickly, and then communicate the decision that's been made. All right. Again, keeping that communication as a top priority and sharing your knowledge, sharing the decision you've made with the entire organization, so everybody's in the know to be successful. Everyone is counting on the decision makers. The decision makers are counting on everyone. We need input to make good decisions. Be honest, respectful. Don't pocket veto a decision, and do be clear in the communication of the decision that's made, regardless of what method you choose to distribute that information. I like pre-construction meetings. I think they're very valuable. Pre-pave meetings are incredibly valuable as well. At the pre-construction meeting, we're going to talk about who subcontractors are, where the materials come from, who's in charge of what part of a project, the superintendent on the project. It's a very important requirement in government projects that there's one voice for the contractor. This one voice will be given direction to all the foremen and the crews. The agency will be working with the superintendent to make sure that the project goes well. Again, the pre-construction meeting is going to be the first time we get to open up the lines of communication with all the key players, exchanging cell phone numbers, exchanging emails, and maybe even exchanging home phone numbers for those emergency situations. A lack of trust can complicate communication, and that's true in your daily life. It's between individuals. Can cause challenges with your teams if you have a lack of trust. And we do need a good leader who can break down those barriers, a good leader who can recognize those challenges in lack of trust, a good leader who needs to be open and honest about their own lack of trust, so that they learn not to have that problem, and so that they make their team that much better. Leadership within a team is so strong, so very, very powerful. Showing respect will definitely command respect. Not showing respect and then try to demand respect will not work for you. We certainly don't want to have that complication between the owners and the contractors. So we do need to continue to remember to earn the trust of the others around us and really be vigilant. And as you can read through this list of being authentic and humble and empathetic, I think I can replace the whole slide and just say follow the golden rule. And I think most of you know that's to do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Sometimes it's easier said than done. And to that end, many contractors have elected core values. One of my clients has the core values listed in this order, and they have done it specifically, and this is their order of importance. Doesn't mean that this has to be yours. It just means that you ought to consider having core values. You ought to have an order of importance, and you should share it with your clients, and you should share it with your employees and your team. So in this particular case, they've elected to do safety, quality, performance, production, and profit. That's their order of importance for core values to help to improve their corporate philosophy and structure on how to get the job done. Quality, we could talk a bit about good communication and quality. For example, there's a contractor who's been tasked with a very challenging opportunity that they had not much to work with. They had to do a very thin mill and overlay. And to ensure that they kept the cold milling machine moving, they decided to pack their trucks side by side. Some might call them in tandem. So you can see that as the first truck gets filled with the millings or the reclaimed asphalt pavement, which will be taken back to the asphalt plant and reused, the second truck trailer that is empty is all set and ready to accept product, so that the cold milling machine never actually stops. And they dial in their feet per minute that they want to accomplish. They have a cut width, they have a cut depth, and from that we can determine how many trucks are required to keep the milling machine moving consistently. Complementing that is the realization that in our industry, many specifications should really be nominal cuts and not exact cuts for milling. A nominal cut is going to allow us to use grade references on our milling machines, and we will be able to cut the existing surface so that the milled surface has a profile that is a significant improvement from the existing road surface. Then we're going to follow this up with paving in a similar fashion, and that is how we're going to achieve the smoothest asphalt pavement possible. So I'd like the engineers out there to remember that if you specify a 1.5 inch milling cut, don't expect it to be exactly 1.5 inches. At the low spots, it should be slightly less, and at high spots, it should be slightly more. I think it's important that on an average daily basis, the nominal cut, though, is 1.5 inches. And we can perform yield checks to verify that. So summary, don't chase the cut depth, chase a nominal cut depth to be the most successful milled project. Inspect your cut. You can see this is a milled surface that is marginal at best, missing teeth. Drum is not rotating fast enough for the speed that the milling machine is moving forward. It was a rather rough ride, a little bit of scalloping, maybe some teeth were missing. This is an improved cut. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty darn good. The rotation of the head is mated extremely well to the motion of the milling machine, and then the trucks are there to move the product out. And finally, this would be what you would consider to be an excellent cut. Many specifications around the nation have been developed to require this on mill and fill projects now. Whether it's a finer tooth milling head or the speed that the milling machine moves forward, any number of specification requirements can be stated, but the important part is to get a uniformly cut depth and to get a smooth ride as we drive forward. And not to mention paying attention to the cross slope. This This would definitely rate up there in an A quality type of milling project. This is from Aztec Industries, in particular Rotec. Many of the equipment manufacturers who make milling machines have a very similar slide to share with you to educate people who purchase their equipment. They provide great on-site training with the foreman and the entire milling crew, and they really do stick to the four main factors that affect the surface texture: line spacing, forward speed, drum rotations per minute, and then the lacing pattern. And everything does in fact get tied into how deep you're going to want to cut the mill. Here's an example. I think this comes from Vertgen on feet per minute versus the milling depth, and how fast and effective you can go to have an excellent job, provided you pay attention to the engine speed. Trucks. Truck drivers, their objective: make them a key component. Explain to them the value that they bring to the project for success. The importance of a safe truck. The importance of a truck properly fueled, properly cleaned. A truck that has a tarp on it. A truck that should stay in the queue and pay attention to how many tons per hour that we expect them to bring to a project, or how many loads per day, per shift. The truck driver needs to know this. Some vendors work their trucks 24 hours, and so they have different shifts. They'll work them day and night. Some trucks, unfortunately, will haul asphalt during the day and gravel or clay at night. That's going to lead to nothing but problems. So do communicate the need for the truck, the quality of the truck, how long you're going to need the truck, and the condition of the truck bed you expect on every single shift. This is from the Asphalt Institute. It's our trucking slide. I think it's an excellent slide that they've had in the construction manual MS-22 for decades. Just shows you a nice, simple insulated waterproof cover, insulated truck bed, smooth truck beds, ability to inspect temperature, and then the identification of the trucks and truck drivers, and everything should be safe per local and national standards. There's an infrared photo of a truck that does not, unfortunately, have a tarp on it. Now, this could be in the middle of the summer. Gets its load of asphalt at the asphalt plant, drives to the project. The wind puts a crust onto the top of the asphalt. You can see the significant difference in temperature between the heart of the load of asphalt and the crust. This can't possibly lead to a good outcome. A secondary infrared photo shows the truck on the right that wasn't tarped and the effect that it has on the temperature of the asphalt mat after it's placed. And again, you can see how those crusted spots travel through the paver and out onto the grade. The roller operator is already set up for failure because the temperature differential is going to lead to probably somewhere between 2 and 5% variability in the density of the asphalt being placed. This is unacceptable, and it's why we need to continue to work with technology on infrared photos to train the crews, and infrared cameras to document good work and pay for work being done. Here's an example of the next generation of infrared cameras. This one's called the PAVE-IR from MOBA. It's attached on the back of the paver, and the camera itself is going to do a nice job. It's going to read the temperature of the asphalt about 8 to 10 foot behind the screed, and the screed operator, the person on the back, they'll have their own screen, so then they can in fact pay attention to what the temperature is behind the mat. That could be 1,000 miles away, and if I have access to the program, I could be reading exactly what temperature the asphalt is behind the paver. I could read what the paver speed is, and I can certainly pay attention and determine if the paver is cycling where they're going fast and then stopping between truckloads, because we will pick up a difference in paver speed, but the infrared camera will then also pick up a difference in temperature. The effect of a visual inspection can never be overstated. In this particular case, you can see that the tech coat's a bit lazy on the right over in this area here, and then the outer 2 feet of the paver on both sides has lack of auger extensions and tunnel extensions, and so the auger's working extremely hard and it's pushing material all the way out, and unfortunately that's pushing the big coarse aggregates to the outside, which causes mechanical segregation. What the infrared will pick up is thermal differentials, so the area here and over there is probably going to be somewhere around 50 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than the center of the mat. So we're going to have compromised density, we're going to have compromised smoothness, an incredible decrease to quality. Again, this is why new equipment is to be embraced and used. Whether you consider it to be a specification or not is going to be the agency's choice. I think it's really a good piece of equipment for all of industry to at least consider owning and operating, if not on a trial basis, maybe for at least 1 or 2 of your paving crews on an ongoing basis. Here's a different example where you can now see the asphalt itself is being placed inside a curb line, and again they do not have the auger extension along the outside. The middle of the mat is a respectable 93.5% density, but the outside that's confined between the concrete ribbons really should be 93.5 as well. So again, we really got to pay attention to our practices and improve on them as best possible. So visual inspection, especially when you see a darker area, always is going to be a telltale that something is not correct. Here's a really nice example showing you an excellent setup of a paver with the augers and tunnel extensions. This project happens to be placing asphalt 30 feet wide. They did a very good job, very successful in maintaining the head of material, maintaining the proper paver speed, and matching it to the numerous rollers that were behind it. I believe it was either 6 or 7 rollers that were used to keep up with this operation. Now that's what it's going to take to pave 30 feet wide, to eliminate 2 joints, and to get a super smooth project. Being a part of a team is crucial to the success of individuals. It's also a crucial success to a corporation. But everyone needs to understand their role. So make sure you do develop roles and responsibilities for all of your employees. And ask yourself, do they feel respected? And if not, how can you improve on it as the leader? Do they feel their contribution is important, or do you brush off what they say? Think about what somebody's saying. Try to put yourself in their shoes. And close out meetings with that you value their input. You value their comments. And although we may not adopt what is being recommended for this project, we're certainly going to look forward to looking at integrating it into future projects. It doesn't really cost you anything to be a nice leader and to help improve your team. Again, we're trying to help each and every member of our team to succeed. And we certainly want our clients to be successful as well. Decisions are very important, but ultimately there has to be a leader. There might be some crazy ideas that come up, but ultimately a leader has to make a decision whether we're going to do this or not. What's in it for the company? What's in it for the client? In this particular case, the decision was made to give the smoothest pavement possible, to minimize joints, and to get the highest density possible. Contractor elected to use, in this case, a material transfer device. Material transfer devices, material transfer vehicles, all excellent, beneficial. Don't need to be used on every project. Some contractors elect to use them for various reasons on projects, and they should be allowed to. That's perfectly fine. Some state agencies actually specify them as a requirement. Sources of variability in construction. Continue to work with the laborers. Sometimes people do what they do because they always have been taught this is the way we do it. In this particular case, the laborer is really working very hard for no apparent reason, other than the asphalt itself is being placed far too high and far away from the existing asphalt. So the raker is casting the material back onto the mat. It's quite unfortunate, especially if you look to the back there. The coarse aggregates on top, which we know is going to be a weak spot of the asphalt pavement. It'll take on moisture. It'll ravel prematurely, fail prematurely. In this particular case, the laborer only had to talk to the back end person and say, hey, put your end gate down, squeeze your end gate in, and let's line this thing up better with the existing mat so that we get an excellent paving seam. This is a perfect outcome as far as I'm concerned. This contractor is doing an excellent job. The way they're successful is their first pull was straight and true, and you can see that off in front up here. And because of that, the rake is exactly where we want to see it. The lute should be used only when necessary at structures, and sometimes when we have slight undulations in the pavement, or maybe once in a while we have to crowd the material back. This is exactly what you want to teach your crew. Less is more. Scheduling, not an easy job. Communication, you should really have a commitment to communication exercises throughout the season. We have to have what's happening tomorrow, what's happening next week, and our long-range plan. We have to have meetings that communicate these things again, because we need to know the weekly dispatch and tonnage outlook, proper ordering of materials, proper scheduling of employees, making sure equipment's available, and certainly we need to have enough trucks to be able to deliver the product from the asphalt plant to the paving crew. Day and night projects. Beautiful way to kill a company. Although it's very difficult on almost every company, agencies, and the benefit of working at night is immeasurable. There's less traffic, production's higher. The motoring public is not impacted nearly as much. The tricks of working at night are obvious. You need to make sure you have proper PPE. You have to have good reflectivity, lighting on the job site, controlling the traffic, the speed, and getting on and getting off at assigned times. But the demand on the resources of an organization is very challenging when you have to work day and night. So do be aware of it. Try your best not to flip back and forth with a crew between days and nights. If you're going to lose quality and lose employees, that's a perfect way to do it. Automate as much as possible. E-ticketing is very popular today. More and more contractors are looking at the ability to electronically issue tickets as opposed to hard tickets. The tickets will go to a truck driver's email or phone, or it'll go to the owner of that truck driving company as a document stating how many tons of asphalt they have received at such and such time and to which project it's going to. State agencies are becoming more and more receptive to e-ticketing. Plant systems with remote access. We need to pay attention to scheduling maintenance real time. And everything that goes into success automation helps to improve almost every company that I've ever worked with. So I ask you to really dig deep and try to automate as much as possible. It's a really good way to have written communication that documents your behavior, and it also shares the information with within the organization, throughout the organization on a timely basis. Equipment tracking, monitoring systems. How many hours has a piece of equipment been used? When is the maintenance required? When do we change the oil? When do we need to, quote unquote, rotate the tires? When do we need to pull out a drag sled at an asphalt plant? All of these have expected lives, and we need to pay attention to when to order a part and have it there. If a trunnion goes bad on an asphalt plant, goodness, in the middle of the summer, that asphalt plant could be down for several days, and we want to avoid that at almost any cost. PAVE-IR I've talked about with infrared and measuring paver speed and temperature of the asphalt. Intelligent compaction is becoming more and more mainstream, where we are being able to measure how many roller passes go over a spot on the asphalt pavement, which is great. And then quality control and real-time communication of a density technician with the foreman, a density technician with the QC manager back at the plant technician communicating to everybody with regards to test measures that were taken for asphalt content and gradation and volumetrics at the plant, and the plant operator who needs to communicate whether a change in material had occurred and maybe they contaminated some of the high quality mix during transition of production of asphalt. It's good to communicate all of these real time. Over time, some of the research I've been fortunate to be involved with the University of Illinois and other agencies is to analyze our equipment and make determinations about the best way to use the equipment. Now, the standard for placing asphalt is typically a 30-foot leveling arm is required. In many cases, contractors will install it on two-lane roads. They'll install it on the left side in both directions that they're paving. However, what is valuable to know is that as excellent as a job that it does, when we chase yield, we'll have a tendency to affect the right side of the paving. Therefore, one of the strong recommendations I have is to not chase yield as much. Certainly, I have to build it compliant to the specifications. Again, similar to milling, thickness should be a nominal thickness. But one of the things that contractors should do is look at their smoothness of their left wheel path versus their right wheel path and make decisions on how to build in the future. One of the findings in the research was that the left wheel path on the data reviewed was always smoother than the right wheel path, from anywhere from 10 to 100% smoother. And so that leads you to believe that instead of just trying to dial in cross slope, that we should probably use two skis, one on the left as well as one on the right. This might be challenging for some contractors or for some projects, but the reality is that on average, you can improve a roadway anywhere from 25 to 50% on the smoothness average of the two wheel path runs. So please look into that and make a conscientious decision to improve on smoothness. Improving communication can continue throughout the year. Some wintertime exercises are, well, a good example would be World of Asphalt, Con'ED, ConExpo, National Pavement Exposition, and functions with the different universities and the different asphalt pavement associations around the nation. They provide an awful lot of opportunities for learning, working with your friends in industry, challenging each other to understand new equipment improvements that are out there, and making a Pareto chart of what are the action items that your company was excellent at last year and where did they fall down. And we really want to focus on maintaining our excellence, but bringing up the items that we didn't do as well in the following year. So let's not pass on the opportunity to do training in the winter months as well. Bring in team members from all of the different areas. Talk openly and honestly about your strengths and weaknesses, and work together and create a very good process of continually reviewing your mix designs, plant production, laydown, quality control, and trucking activities to continually improve your organization's ability to perform well. Communicate with owners, the owners of the projects. Nothing is more important than developing and maintaining trust. We talked about that earlier in this webinar, and as we begin to bring this webinar to conclusion, I just wanted to make sure that I continue to encourage you to have very good open lines of communications with your owners. Be very, very specific about start dates and end dates. Be very specific about the needs for payment. Be very specific and active with turning in reports on quality, on quantity, and work together. Again, the SAPAs, the State Asphalt Pavement Associations and trade associations, really do a great job helping both industry as well as agency, and the DOTs do a great job sponsoring and encouraging university research, as well as delivering the message on an annual basis as well. A lot of the communication ideas and slides that I've used really came from a good friend of mine, Bill Pine from Heritage Research Group. Certainly would like to thank him. So again, constant communication will help us to improve on our materials, machinery, and methods for asphalt. We have to make sure we communicate properly. Again, watch out for the texting and the autocorrect. Sometimes things go wrong and you're just going to have to jump in quickly and clarify what was stated. So my guarantee to you is I really want you to encourage involvement. I do my best to encourage involvement from you. I want you to do your best to encourage involvement by your other team members. Understand innovation is important and continue to push forward on better ways of communication and better ways of building a project. Brainstorming is a wonderful way. Rain days is a great time to bring your team together and do some brainstorming activities. Nobody's idea is poor. Accept everything and analyze it. Again, work as a group of innovators to improve your company. Bring the good innovative items to the agencies, and maybe they'll become specification requirements, such as 2 skis for paving, super wide paving to eliminate longitudinal joints, higher VMA and Hamburg values, maybe the use of polymers on certain projects, finer gradations, an awful lot of items that we'll be talking about in following seminars as well. And do always encourage positive change. Want to pave for super smooth asphalt, and it really does take teamwork to do a great job from planning all the way to paving. Make sure you do it all. Usually I'll open it up to questions, so I'll just solicit questions online at this point. You can email me. Feel free to email me with the email shown. You can text me on my cell. That's perfectly fine as well. In conclusion, the next webinar, we'll see where it takes us. I think that your feedback is going to drive my next webinar. One final note is I'm going to email you back 5 to 10 question examination, depends on the topic. I'd like you to do your best and answer the questions. I'd like you to send in additional topics you'd like me to talk about over the next several weeks as we continue to work through as essential employees during this challenging time. And submit topics in exam, and I'll send you a certificate of achievement. And again, I do appreciate your feedback, your honest and open feedback. I do wish you well. I want everybody to be safe. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your team members, and everything will go well. Have a great day.